Welcome back to the wonderful adventures of Dillard Taunt and the Identity Crisis game. As you can probably tell right away, we have a lot of stuff to do to get us to level 5, so we're going to jump right in. We're in the well in the Blighted Village. First thing we do is go left and get the spider step boots, so that way we can walk across webs without getting entangled. Then we're going to kill some of the baby spiders and ettercaps. No special tactics needed for this fight, but you can destroy the webs that they're walking on to deal extra falling damage. From there, it's time to take on the Big Mom Spider. We want to do this for two reasons. One, of course, the experience that she's going to give us, and two, we need to get the Dark Amethyst that she's guarding for the Necromancy of Thay. This fight is going to require a lot more strategy. The first of which is to take out her babies before she has a chance to bring them into the fight. These little guys don't hit for much, but you will quickly get overwhelmed by the sheer number that they bring, and they will kill your downed players almost immediately. So, as long as you're stealthing, you're able to take these out without any of the spiders noticing safely. At least for the first two batches. For the third batch, this is where those spider step boots are going to come in handy. What we want to do is have someone stealth up to the third batches of eggs. If we attack them outright, Mama Spider is going to immediately join the fray. So, we want to make sure that we get them all in one go. The best way to do this is to put an explosive next to them, like Alchemist Fire. Here I accidentally mixed up the splitting, so I have to pick them back up and put down the correct amount. 2 Alchemist Fire should be enough to kill all of them in one go. Once the fires are placed, we want to sneak back away. Luckily with the spider step boots, we don't have to worry about getting stuck or alerting Mama Spider to what we're doing. Of course, while she won't aggro immediately as it's not a direct attack on the eggs, she's still going to notice that her precious little babies are on fire, and she's going to want to find out why that is. So, as soon as you blow up the Alchemist Fire, here's what you can expect.
Perfectly hidden.
Of course, I thought I was being terribly clever by hiding Shadowheart behind the rock, and then I was going to launch my attack as soon as Mommy Spider got on that webway, until she turned around. From there, it was all hands on deck. Luckily, Mommy Spider was considerate enough to get on another web and fall for a substantial amount of damage. None of these spiders, Mommy Spider included, although it is a magical item, have anything that's really worth looting their corpses over. So, don't be afraid to let the Abyss do most of the work for you. A couple of web drops later and shoves from our MVP Shadowheart, and these spiders are down for the count, as is half of our group. But now we can loot the Cursed Amethyst without any sort of obstacles, as long as we can get out of the web that we keep intentionally walking into and clicking onto. And, alright, so maybe it's a little trickier than it looks, but we'll get there eventually.
Rise, you said.
From there, it's back to the Blighted Village. We have some basements to explore. We'll go into this building right next to the waypoint, and we'll find a mysterious hatch that lets us get into the cellar. Make sure to loot all the potions and alchemical supplies, and then find this lever behind the stack of boxes. It'll lead you to a secret room full of coffins, one of which contains a scroll of summon Quasit. Teach it to any one of your many wizards. I picked Gale as that's his standard bread and butter. Now you can summon the unique Quasit Shovel, or whatever you decide to name her, whenever you want. Shovel is an absolutely lovely gal, and she has quite a way with words.
Shovel, now call Shovel!
You recognize the tiny fiend, a Quasit.
Wait, are you horny? For the book, talk to the mirror, and remember, balsam, good for burns.
She is also a dirty, rotten liar. Balsam is in fact not good for burns, and if you use that as the answer to the mirror, she will attack you and release an orb of annihilation on you. So just say that it's good for treating wounds. From there, we're off to grab the Necromancy of Thay. I recommend disarming the pressure plate that it's on so the room doesn't get filled with fire upon pickup. I would also highly recommend using one of your bards for opening the book, as they have unique dialogue options, as they do in so many different encounters. Of course, if you have someone with astounding wisdom saving throws, they're also a good option. Anyway, I'm just going to let this scene play out in its entirety. If you've already seen it and want to skip on to the adventure, then go to 750 in the video, and you'll skip all through this.
The book's pull is irresistible. You feel changed, bettered for having opened it. Suddenly you are capable of anything. Felling mountains, darkening suns, conversing with the dead. Glyphs shift gently before your eyes. Words slip into your mind, onto your lips, forming words you don't understand. And something is trying to reply. The glyphs swarm impatiently. The book wants you to turn the page, to delve deeper. It's hungry. The glyphs seem to burn your inner eye, outraged at your denial. Within the pages, you feel a feral thrashing. Living magic. Driven mad by what it was used for. Necromancy. The magical energies of all living things were stolen, corrupted, and sealed in this vile book. It wants someone to share in its insanity. Your limerick spinal line pierces something within the book's roiling, vengeful magic. The voices falter, the anger quells. The magic seems to grow still and quiet, like a soothed beast. Nothing, just old parchment covered in arcane symbols. The magic sleeps. The heavy cover thumps shut with a strange finality.
But we're not done basement diving yet. Let's go to the last unexplored basement in the Blighted Village. Then we're able to get something very special, infernal iron, which will help us cure Karlach, or at least stabilize her. We pop back over to Damon, and there she is, fit as a fiddle.
That feels good.
Anyway, with all that resolved, it's time to go back to the Blighted Village and finish out the last bit of experience that we can squeeze from there.
What the hell are you doing?
Another situation where our Bard class gives us a very unique dialogue option, or we can flatter this bugbear into submission while his significant other essentially finishes him off for us.
Tell of my rutting, my virility.
Don't want this puny rutting written down.
I don't care who you are. That has to hurt.
I am virile. I am
Enough! Moment ruined. Passion squished like slow goats underfoot. We leave.
After leaving the village, Gale asks for his third and final artifact from us. That's right, a lot of people don't know that after he consumes the third magical item from you, he will stop asking for more. So you're free to sell or keep whatever magical items you want from that point. One recommendation I do have is to still hoard up until this point, as, and this may be fixed in a patch, there are still some items that say Gale can absorb them, but he cannot. After realizing that the magical items aren't having the desired effect anymore, Gale decides to tell us the truth of his condition, which is that he is a walking thermonuclear magical bomb. To which we say, no worries, bro. We got your back.
That is a great relief. Oh, a great relief indeed.
Now it's time to go unlock a very helpful early game shop and collect more hyena ears. For this first gang, no particular strategy is necessary to defeat them. I say that, of course, as you can now see that half of the party is down or even dead, as just happened to Karlak. But we still came out on top. For this next encounter, there is one important piece of strategy that you want to keep in mind, and that's that your face character, or whoever it is that's best as persuasion, is going to be up front. And that's because whoever gets closest to the Null leader first is the one who's going to initiate this cutscene.
You see yourself through her eyes, a pulsing red cluster of organs. Feast. No. The voice has forbidden this meat. As the symbol glows, power courses through you. Authority.
You'll notice the initial options here aren't great if you're trying to be a good guy. So, what you want to do is actually select the first option to get more at the actual essence of what drives these creatures forward. Once you successfully do so, without a check mind you, then you're able to pick the more appropriate good guy option, although I use the term good guy very loosely here. It does let you turn the Null leader against her fellow combatants. At least it does in theory. Thank God for inspiration. With the Null Pack leader on your side, the rest of this fight is going to be a cakewalk.
To keep her teeth from your throat. Something stirs deep within you, hungry and alert. It's taking something you'll never get back.
I'm sure that's fine.
She is still ravenous, her mind a hungry pit. The flesh of her pack wasn't enough to satisfy her.
Now, I like to think that Dillard is a pretty good guy deep down. But sometimes when you're fighting the forces of evil, you've got to make some tough choices. And some of those tough choices involve telling a Null Pack leader to eat itself. Because if you don't, that Null Pack leader will probably not only kill you, but anyone else it runs into on its adventures. So letting it go isn't really an option either. Luckily, with the power of Dillard's tadpole, we're able to force it to non-life with relative ease. And even more fortunately, as we begin looting the battlefield, we have a revelation when we approach the Null Pack leader's corpse, that her body is good for more than just hyena ears. In her body, we find our very first true soul parasite. And with our build being what it is, we're going to need as many of these wiggly little friends as we can get our hands on. Aren't they just the most precious little things that you ever laid eyes on? Or put your eyes on? Into? All of the above? We made friends with the Zentrum that we saved, and then immediately head up to save the people from the burning buildings. And, as seems to be the case for literally every interaction, we have another chance to use our unique bard skills.
Make yourself useful. Push, damn it, push! That's right. 3
Once inside, I have Karlach throw a giant barrel of water at the door to make sure that we don't have any flashback when we open it. And then one swift sword strike later, wait, she's not a duke. What is she? Who is this person? Commander? Counselor. Counselor Floric is saved. Woohoo! She exposes that Will's father is none other than Grand Duke Ravengard himself, and asks us to save him, because the Fist are too busy. She also gives us a very nifty magical bow, which allows us to accumulate lightning charges every time we get a hit. We're going to want to get all of these items that help us build charges to help compensate for our weaker all-around builds. From there, we head to the northwestern corner of the village, so that way we can get into the Zentrum hideout. There's a very jumpy man waiting for us, ready to explode a room full of very valuable exploding barrels. Luckily, if we use the password that we got from the Zentrum that we saved earlier on from the Knolls, he lets us in without any issue. Make sure to collect all of the explosive barrels from this room before proceeding below. We're going to need them. Once below, we'll meet some people who are practicing in a not-so-respectable trade of artists. And, thanks to all of the bonuses we get from having bards and clerics in our party, we're able to pass a relatively high persuasion check to get him to give up the artist for free. It's important to do this early on, because we're going to run into this guy again in Act 3, and it's going to be an important quest for us to complete. And of course, when speaking to the artist, because Dillard is a true hero to the hilt, he gives him some money for the road, and sends him on his merry way. After stocking up at the shop there, it's time to get back to Dillard's girlfriend's main order of business. Finding the Githyanki creche and getting ourselves purified in the process. On our way there, we run across some Githyanki confronting some flaming fists, who were, as usual, being racist. And they have the very fair and measured response of burning them all to death with a red dragon. Completely reasonable if you think about it. Lae'zel rushes down, eager to give news of her predicament to the commanding Gith in charge. But we sense something isn't quite right here. So, we decide to err on the side of caution. We convince Lae'zel to lie about her current condition, and our relationship with her, so that way the Gith do not become immediately hostile to us. This is very important to do, because not only are they all insanely strong, they don't have anything we're dying for, and we get all of the experience as though we defeated them if we resolve it peacefully.
I shall alert my caretaker with haste.
Now it's time to recruit our most important party member, Scratch, who we can find mourning the loss, or not really accepting the loss, of his previous master and friend. This game without inspiration would be an absolute nightmare.
You see a name etched into the leather. Scratch.
By finding out Scratch's name, we're able to convince him that we are in fact a friend, and only have his best interests at heart.
You should go. My friend is injured. He needs rest. Of course he will. And then we'll return home. No, I won't leave him.
We tell Scratch that he can come and find us at our camp if need be, and that we hope to see him there soon. After that little adventure, we head to the Owlbear Cave for something that's known as a comedy of errors. Here, there's a prayer that you have to know, or have a worshipper of Saloon, in order to open the chest. I had every single one of my multi-classed minions attempt to pass the DC 15 religion check for this chest, and none of us succeeded. So, moving on and accepting our failures, we decided it was time to finally address the goblin camp with the help of our good friend Saza. Saza is a great tool if you're like me in this run and want to avoid combat. While she may not be the most beloved among her goblin allies, she can still talk her way past all of them and get you right into the heart of the goblin base, even if they give her some shit along the way. Even more important than reaching the goblin base, though, is getting to this bridge on the way there to trigger the following cutscene. This scene is so important because it's not until after this scene that you can long rest and start to unlock your true illithid potential.
The visions fade and the voice falters as a strange energy swells around you. The many-sided artifact. Somehow you understand it's repelling the presence.
After that, we reach the goblin camp without issue, and we see our good friend Volo, who appears to be fumbling on stage. So of course, Dillard, being the altruist that he is going to try and lend him a hand.
That was good. Carry it on, Pigeon.
Unfortunately, Dillard does too good of a job of carrying the rhyme on, and Volo, inevitably, will choke. But that works out for us, as now the stage is free for us to put on a performance of our own. When you perform on this stage, you're able to gather quite a crowd, successful performance or not, as long as you're actually proficient with the instrument. Now, Dillard's a good guy. He would never do something very underhanded to win a huge fight, besides the Knoll thing. We'll ignore that. Asterion, on the other hand, is not a good guy, and he notices that the grog barrel is completely unguarded at the moment. Well, besides this one guy who's grabbing a drink, but he'll turn around soon enough. If the goblins are distracted, you're able to sneak a poison into this drink. And what happens next? Well, let's take a look.
What you standing here all dry for? Come here, have a drink.
The goblins will ask you, for some reason, to lead a toast. And in doing so, you want to make sure that you don't, kill yourself. So, as always, thank God for inspiration. Once you do this, though, all of the other goblins will drink without question.
Bravo. Now get out of my way. I need another drink.
They're dead.
Honestly, I thought this would immediately initiate combat, but it turns out you're given a chance to talk your way out of it, and if you do so, you still have free run of the goblin camp, except that you can't loot any of the poisoned corpses. Still, it whittles their numbers down very effectively.
You're right. Whoever did this could be anywhere by now.
Now that we've done our part to handle the courtyard, it's time to head inside and start following Saza again. Because we have a date with a drow named Minthara.
Ain't no party in here. Shut it, Graw. Olak cleared us. Got a visitor for the drow, I do.
But not until we make a quick stop off to meet this interesting gentleman who is hanging out in a pool of his own blood. This man is a cleric of Loviatar, the goddess of pain, and he wants to share his pain with you in a very explicitly kinky, sadomasochistic way. Honestly, I don't think this guy is the best priest that Loviatar could have sent our way. A lesser known fact about this challenge is that if you actually remove your armor beforehand, you get a significant buff to the checks, and you only have to succeed on 2 of them. So, make sure you become an ardent apostle before he starts taking the flail to your back. Also, if you're a bard, you get you guessed it, even easier unique checks for this. So a naked bard is guaranteed to get Loviatar's blessing.
Your voice sounds so sweet, dear one. Keep going.
This is a semi-permanent buff that will only go away if your character ends up dying and needs to be revived. Now, it's time to save Bolo, since we are at least partly responsible for why he got back into that cage in the first place.
For a joke, why don't ya?
I'll slip away when the coast is clear. See you soon, my friend. I simply can't wait to pick your brain.
Sometimes, foreshadowing is obvious. Now it is time to meet Minthara, the first of the 3 leaders of the goblin camp. Saza takes us directly to her, encounter-free. But, unfortunately, when we get here, it turns out Saza had some ill intentions towards us, and she actually recommends to Minthara that we get killed as revenge for her being imprisoned. Very not okay, Saza. But when Minthara finds out that we're true souls, her ire turns towards Saza.
My spiders will have that pleasure.
Still, Dillard can't help but feel some sort of companionship for this goblin that has got him all the way here. So he tells the truth, that Saza couldn't have known that they were true souls, and she is spared. Which Will disapproves of? Like, Asterion I get, but Will, come on, you're a good guy. Oh, and then we immediately tell Minthara we're gonna murder her. But, before we do that, while I'm in my discussion with Minthara, we have some strategic placing to do. The first thing we want to do is make sure that we take care of this eye, and the best way to do that is to throw it down a hole. So, I position my people and make sure they're in a good spot to dispatch this scrying eye. And then, just like we rehearsed, down the hole it goes. If you don't care about looting Minthara, you can tell her to destroy the camp. She'll walk across that bridge, and you can break it and kill her immediately, without a fight. Also, I thought I was keeping them from calling reinforcements, but it turns out that this goblin is some sort of telekinetic drummer, and can bang the war drum all the way from downstairs. Still, even with our handicap, the remaining 3 goblins are no match for us. We actually used non-lethal force to knock Saza out, because she's going to show up later in our adventure and help us get another rare achievement, She Can't Be Caged. Oh, Asterion got pushed off the edge too, but now he's back. Time to save Halsin, so we jump over the edge and start off with some sneak attacks. We'll enter the door behind those goblin guards, and luckily the encounters out here do not immediately aggro the goblins in here. So, what we're going to do is make our way down and see how far we can get without actually starting a fight. It turns out, it's not very far. As soon as we talk to the gate and ask them to stop bullying the bear, well, then it's time for blood. With Halsin here, this fight should not prove too difficult for you, but the main focus is that you want to make sure you position yourself to cut off anyone who starts running for reinforcements.
Light on my feet. Pardon the viscera. One should cherish all of nature's bounty, but goblin guts are quite far down the list.
Halsin will offer to go with you when it comes to taking out the other goblin leaders. That's a perfectly viable strategy, one we're not going to take, because it's very hard to stealth about when there's a bear. And so, we finally trigger our first sequence, where we start to experience Ceramorphosis. And, as a very fair and measured response to that starting, our Githyanki girlfriend decides that it's time to cut our throat. And to be fair, she is going to cut her own throat afterwards. Still, murder-suicide is not what I'm looking for in a relationship. After talking her out of it, we decide that it's best to try and sleep off the fever and see how we feel in the morning.
I cannot trust my own mind, so it seems I must trust yours.
In my dream, I awoke to a hideous surprise. My guardian, who is currently preventing my transformation and seramorphosis, and also the one who saved me as I fell from the ship, proceeds to tell me how important it is that I trust them and that I give them everything that they ask for.
Better. I promise.
Oh, bother.
In the morning, Volo is back, and he has a solution to cure my little brain worms. So of course, I tell him to go for it. And of course, I'm going to absolutely regret that decision. But not really. It's actually very important that we let him pop out our eyeball so he gives us his own artifact eye, which allows us to have permanent see invisibility. A very welcome trade-off for a unwelcome lobotomy.
Yes, quite. Well, there is some mild trauma. Take this. A far superior relic to that old jelly you were chained to.
Now it's time for us to experience a significant power jump, as we can now imbibe true soul parasites, and I immediately jam my brain full of them. Another thing I learned on this playthrough, withers will just show up at your camp, even if you didn't come for them. With all that said and done, it's time to get back to the good old goblin murdering. Now, this place is a stronghold for a reason. There are a lot of them, and a lot of very strong ones of them, and very few of us, who, as we get further in the game, are only going to be weaker in comparison to everyone around us. So, where we place ourselves is very important, as well as how we manage our resources. So the first thing that we're going to do is go across the rafters to make sure that we can loot this room that is chock full of explosive barrels. It is a very long and very arduous process, because what we have to do is pick them up until we become encumbered and then send them back to camp. I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. Once we have those in hand, it's time to go back up to the rafters and position ourselves for the next fight. Our first target is Priestess Gut. We want to make sure that she is taken out, as well as everyone else in the main hall. And of course, what better place to start than those fire-holding chandeliers that are perfectly placed above their little goblin heads. We're going to keep the high ground because it makes it harder for them to hit us with their ranged attacks and easier for us. One downside is that Priestess Gut can pull one of your people down from the ledge, which is something I did not know until now. Still, the rest of your companions being safely up in the rafters should make the rest of the fight long, but relatively easy and safe. So, just featherfall your way down to save whoever it is that died, which in this case was Dillard, which means that we do lose the Loviatar's love that we just spent like 5 minutes to get, which is kind of a bummer. But honestly, it wasn't going to come into play that much throughout. Anyway, turns out Saza resets here after she wakes up from being unconscious, and she pinky promises that she will not try to kill you again, which is good enough for us.
Promise. Just let me go.
So now it was time for the big boss of the goblin camp, but not before we gave Asterion a parasite, because he really politely asked for one the last time that we left camp, and he pouted that we didn't give him one. On our way through, my intent was to sneak back up to the rafters to get the high ground, but it turns out the goblins can see you through that crack in the wall. So, it was time for Plan B, and B stands for barrels, or barricade, or a barrel barricade. Either way, we're going to put down some explosive barrels between those goblins and this door. While they will run up and may destroy them, they'll still buy us time while they do their attacks, and also, if we can manage to group them up around it and explode them, it's going to be a large chunk of them taken out at once. This is very important, as Dror Ragzlin hits super hard and can fling your people all over the place. And there we go, half dead before he even makes it through the door. But, of course, true to form, all of that damage, and he still deals a number on us before he finally goes down. Strangely, and much to our benefit, as I enter the next room, I realize a good number of goblins didn't actually join the Dror Ragzlin fight. But, thanks to the new psionic backlash ability, they are dead without any sort of issues. So now we can use Ragzlin's key to claim that huge pile of treasure he keeps in the back, as well as a new set of infernal iron, which will help us cure Karlach later on down the road. Now it's time to give Halsin the good news, and good god dang it. I just realized that I could have gone back to the Grove and finished out this quest for a huge chunk of experience instead of, well, what you're going to see next. So, live and learn. Oh, and we also freed the guy from the torture rack who is also in the Goblin Dungeon. At this point, I realized it had been a hot minute since I actually had some one-on-one time with Lae'zel, so I decided to go and talk to her and ask her what she thought of me. And she had a confession to make.
I thought you witless, gutless, unimpressively bland.
Okay, well, you know what, that's fine. Dillard can banter with the best of them. And of course, Lae'zel, being the woman that she is, takes it very well.
But you have stoked fires I didn't know I possessed. I swear, you would tear the horns off one dragon for plunging into another.
Our strength is 8 right now, so I don't think we could do that, but I am really flattered that she thinks that we could.
Your odor alone is enough to make my neck sweat and my hair stand on end.
Playing this game, I realize, there might be something wrong with me.
Good. I want to taste you. Perhaps tonight, perhaps later, but I want it all the same. Do you?
And of course, Dillard's one of those classy bards who only has one woman in his life.
Girlfriend.
But Lae'zel isn't looking for a commitment. So, you know what? We'll take what we can get. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Perhaps one night soon, I will come to your bunk and take what is mine.
Fellas, if a lady ever told me that,
I shall keep
I'd be
enjoying
done.
your scent.
Anyway, Goblin Camp isn't done yet. We still have one ogre to take care of, and she's kind enough to walk beneath a chandelier for us to start things off with a bang.
To fight, and now you have one.
I got this.
She's guarding a room that has a puzzle in it that allows you access to the Underdark. But I hate puzzles in CRPGs, so walk your party over there until someone succeeds at a perception check to find a lever. Then have someone do sleight of hand to unlock it, and use lockpick tools if you need to. And then when you critically succeed at it, which isn't necessary, you'll unlock a door. The same door that that puzzle would have unlocked that gives you immediate access to the Underdark. Man, knowing all the stuff that I do next makes me really keep kicking myself in the butt for not just going to the Goblin Camp, no, the Druid Grove, and talking to Halsin. If you're watching this and trying to do this challenge too, for the love of God, go there. Anyway, ladder leads us to Selûne's temple, where we want to destroy this moonstone. 2 reasons. 1, if you have Shadowheart with you, it'll inspire her. I don't, so that doesn't matter. It also lights up the place really nice, so I guess 3 reasons. But mainly because we want to keep the Minotaur who's about to attack the gates alive. If the moonstone kills him, you don't get any experience. But if you kill him, which is perfectly safe to do from this ledge, then you get 75 experience. Not a lot, but when we're trying to do a challenge like this, literally every bit helps. Past him you'll find 2 other minotaurs, one of who spot Dillard immediately, but they don't spot his companions. So we're able to do some sneaky sneak attacks before they actually join the fray, and do a little bit more strategic placement, including putting down a barrel. This one isn't actually so much for the explosion, but it will stop them from charging directly at us. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but the minotaurs don't charge through the barrels, they decide to jump over them. Afterwards, we experience some shaking. That is the local bullet. We do not want to deal with the bullet right now. It'll run away when we damage it, and we won't get any experience. From there, we continue north to this rope ladder. Send someone with high perception so you can find and disarm these traps, because if they go off, then the rope ladder is gone too. And you want that rope ladder there if you don't want to jump up the side of everything. Anyway, after that, you get to access the whole Zentarum treasure, and it is a lot. So, take your time looting the place and make sure you're stocked up. Next, we can get a very nifty sword for our bards. It gives a +1 to performance and lets it sing and screech as an action, which have different aura effects that can be very helpful in battle. Basically, all you have to do is pass a religion check, shed some blood on the altar, and the sword is yours. Remember when I said we'd avoid the bullet? The reason that I'm half dead here is because we didn't. We did drive it into running away, but it wasn't worth it. We didn't get any experience. It cost us a lot of resources. I should have just reset afterwards, but I decided not to because I was being stubborn. Anyway, don't fight the bullet until you have found its lair and know that it is not going to run away. In the meantime, though, let's convince these myconids that we are here for peaceful reasons and that we just want to explore their nice little fungal city.
Weave through your mind, seeking your true intent. Then the sovereign drones a new melody. Cautious.
Side note, I think aesthetically and thematically, the myconids are some of my favorite Underdark dwellers. Fungus, as just a general rule, has always felt very alien to me. So seeing it actually personified like this is great. Now, let's go meet a friendly hobgoblin and a friendly mind flayer to not only unlock an important quest, but also to get access to their very nifty shops, where we can buy some very good tools from them. Now, it's time to save a poisoned deep gnome, and get some very nice shoes in the process. Just make sure you have some antidote when you go up to talk to her and you'll be able to administer it. Then, you don't even have to ask for the boots. She just gives them to you. It's really nice.
Most likely held by the poisoner.
I'll mark where I made my escape, and wait here, I suppose. Not much choice, eh?
She also asks you to save her fellow deep gnome slaves who are currently being held by the Druagar, and another true soul named Nier. Put on these boots of speed to someone, really anyone because we're all different classes at this point. It allows you to dash as a bonus action, which is tremendously helpful for placement and maneuverability. Then we can talk to Sovereign Spa. He asks us to murderize the Druagar who have made such a mess of his home, and then, later on, will ask us to murderize Nier. Finally, we go to Dareth to get a quest from her and get one of the most helpful necklaces in the game, which allows us to cast Healing Word and Mass Healing Word. And I said finally, but I didn't mean finally, because what we now need to do is get Sovereign Glut. He is going to make up for a lot of our lack of combat prowess as we explore the Underdark, and be a very nifty surprise tool that'll help us later. Here, I was super close to leveling up, so I thought, alright, let's just kite this one hook horror, and then we'll have enough to get to level 5, and then I can finally stop recording 8 hours of footage that I'm going to have to edit down into what you are seeing now as probably a 45-minute video. Woohoo! But of course, it only gave enough experience for Gale to level up. Come on, Gale, work with me here, buddy! But that's okay, because there's one other really easy source of experience nearby. The extra reason that we had Glut with us was because he can walk by the Bibberbangs without setting them off. So we can find Dareth's husband and move him his backpack with zero risk of becoming hurt by the Bibberbangs ourselves. We're also going to have Glut move that torch so they don't set on fire later. Why are we going there later, you ask? Well, there is a very nifty mushroom called a noble stock mushroom at the back of this cave. But you need to have one of your people go there. If Glut goes there, he will eat the mushroom, and it is the only one in the game that I know of. So just make sure that someone goes in there quickly and gets out quickly before the poison kills them. Now all that's left to do is talk to Dareth that her husband has returned, and wham bam thank you ma'am, everyone is ready to level up. Dillard is getting a level in Sorcerer to round out all of his charisma based classes, and so he can benefit from the wild magic ability to re-roll certain rolls. Next we have Gale, and I made a very important discovery here. I don't know if it's because of the wizard or the cleric class, but adding a class in Sorcerer gives him access to a level 2 spell slot. It does not give us level 2 spells, but still, this will allow us to upcast, which is huge. Karlach joins the Ranger Club, and since she's already able to use heavy armor, I decided to instead give her resistance to cold. Now she has resistance to both fire and cold innately, which is great for tanking. Now we're on to Asterion. He's going to finally become the bard that he should have honestly been from the very beginning. After Asterion, we're on to Shadowheart. She too is going to get a sorcerer class and unlock a 2nd level spell slot. Woo! From there, it's on to Lae'zel. Lae'zel I'm going a different route and giving her my class in Druid, so that way she's able to have some healing on the side. Back to Will, we're going to give him a class in Wizard, which, like the Sorcerer class, also gives him access to a 2nd level spell slot. I really have no idea where these interactions are coming from, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Now, if you have made it all the way to the end of this video, I cannot thank you enough. I know the audio was a little bit weird this time around. I hope it wasn't too much of a turnoff. I hope that you learned something. If you did, please like and comment below. It really helps out the videos. I know you know that. And I can't wait to put up the next one. Talk to you guys later.